there! This is another video about C64. I'm very too tempted to say that this is not a series because it's standalone episodes, but they have a common theme, and that is the C64. And some episodes back I unpacked a collection of C64 that I have bought and some other stuff, and we are going through this one by one on the C64's and some of the other boards. And as you can see on the bench behind me, there is a lot going on, and we started to look into this some episodes ago, and we are going to fix every one of them, but we are not making them complete sellable, totally restored objects. I'm finding the fault, and I'm not putting in new chips where it's special customized C64 chips. I'm using what I have, but otherwise I will leave them, with the sockets opened and a note about that they are repaired. And if some of you is interested in buying some of these boards or the C64, you're welcome to give me an offer on that. I have far too many C64 that it's just taking up space, and a working C64, I don't need many of those. I need the ones that are broken so that I have something to do. And that brings us on to the topic of this episode, so let's turn to the bench. Yeah, I'm back here again, and this time I'm going to desolder this CIA chip, and I've done some changes in the camera setup. I was complaining last time about what I thought was that some settings has changed on the camera, but actually I did find a setting that overturned the settings in the camera for auto exposure, and I have turned that off. And also I made some changes on the settings for the microphone, so hopefully this will be better quality, at least not worst. And I also made some changes to the overhead lighting to reduce the reflections on stuff. You see I still have some reflection here, but it's a lot less than it was. So I'm just going to unscrew this board to be able to desolder. Yeah, this one was the one that was broken. So what we need to desolder is this one. Yeah, I will just power up my desoldering gun and start that. Yeah, the desoldering gun needs no other introduction, but I am going to do this in silence, as I'm going to turn off the noise because this is very noisy. And last time we did not manage to get anything out without using the hot air gun, so we probably have to do that too. Yeah, that definitely was a good desoldering. It's not much left that is stuck here, but there are always some stubborn ones. And I have to check on the other side to see if there is much solder here, and I can't see very much. I do definitely have some in this last hole here. I'm just going to take that one more time. The next step, if this does not come loose very easy, is to use the hot air most of this is already, it was one whole side where it was coming quite easily, but I do have one hole here. I'm just checking the pins with a screwdriver to see if any one of them are stuck. Yeah, I do think it's coming out. Yes, like so. And there's really not a good reason why I should do anything else than just to solder in a socket here. These are 40 pins, and I don't remember what kind of socket this is, but they are dual wipe. That means they have contacts on both sides. And I do need to place this with the key the right way. It should be like this. Yeah, I need winch right in. There are some people that has made some changes, and they have used some PCB that makes the over voltage protection and protection for static electricity that you can plug between your 6526 and the PCB, but it probably helps a bit. My view on this is that everything that is related to over voltage, transients and so on, they should be eliminated as close to the source as possible. So placing them at the socket where you have all the travel lines from here and the keyboard connector and stuff, that doesn't make much sense. So if you want to protect your joystick ports and so on, you have to place the protection on the joystick ports, not on the chip. Yeah, I'm going to solder the two legs and check that if it's properly seated, and there it is. So then it's just soldering this in. I wonder why this one didn't flow out as it should, if there was any impurity somewhere. When I repair PCBs like this and there is no corrosion involved, or there is no surface mount components, I don't use flux. I trust in the flux that is inside this solder, and this solder here, that is a Wert brand. It's very good and it contains a lot of flux. As you can see, all the smoke here is mostly flux escaping. And rosin based flux is the stuff from the pine trees. I do think they use the real stuff and not a chemical composed one, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that should be it. And yeah, I do have one point where there was little solder. I don't think it will be any problem, but better just to fill the holes. Yes, like so. And then it's ready for testing, and we are going to test this with the aftermarket CIAs. I did order them a while back and I took a while to arrive, but today I've been getting them in the mail, so I won't test them. And this is what I got. And it's two of these. That's called the J CIA. And they are made with some buffer chips, and I don't think they are emulating. I think this is an implementation that is system correct with some kind of programmable device. And we are just going to drop one of these in here. These pin headers. Yeah, they seems to be okay, maybe a little bit thick. And you have the notch this way. Oh, yeah, they are more than a little bit thick. So this is not something you can drag in and out of this socket. This should make a good fit, but I don't know if I'm going to use this. I do still have some CIAs lying about. And I'm just going to drop this in here. Rotate this so it will fit with the broken stud like so. And I can drop in some screws. Then I'm sure I'm not forgetting when I will mount this back together. And as usual, when you take these screws with just no metal inserts, you just turn them a half turn the opposite way before you take them in, so that you are not cutting new threads unnecessary. And the plastics will last a bit longer. Yeah, like so. Then we should be ready for a test. And of course we have to test with the harness and stuff here. And we of course need the cartridge and set 1, diagnostics and diagnostics, like so. And video. And power. And I need to turn on capture, make this like so, and good to go. I haven't turned the Microsoft on to listen to the SID, but we did test the SID last time, and I do think that the microphone is placed so that we will hear something at least. Now everything is okay with the control ports and the 6526. Yeah, I think we can conclude that the 6526 was the culprit, even though I didn't admit it at first, because now they have the placement for these, and I do still have some. I ordered some while back ago when I went into the C64 stuff after some years with not doing anything in the C64 area. I bought some items from a guy in Argentina, and he had a lot of these CIA chips laying around, and I bought 5 from him, and I do still think I have 2 of them left. And that was new off-the-shelf part. It's no broken or dead C64 because of that. But at least now we have got an original replacement. Sorry, I was interrupted by the phone, but this one at least now appears to be fully working, and it's a very nice specimen. I'm going to keep this inside here for now, but I'm going to replace it with a standard chip if I'm going to sell off this machine. And I probably will, but I was really enjoying using this keyboard. It was working as it should. So now it's on to test the next machine in the line. Yes, what are we going to do next? And I was thinking, why not do this? This is the scrap board, or scrapboard and scrapboard. I do think it looked rather nice. But this is the board that was used as a spare part, obviously. Because you have this, it's a 373 that was desoldered, and it was missing the VIC-2 chip. and it's also missing this U31. And if we see on the first board we fixed, the U31 is 74 LS629, I think it is. Yes. And it's in a socket in this board, so it's possible to just use that. And I also can test this VIC chip. It's the 6569. But I did also get this in the package. And these actually are 3 6569s, 2 R1 chips, these are really old, and 1 R3 chip. And R3, what's on this board here? I do think it's an R3, yes. I do think that's the most common one on these ones. And is there other things missing here? You do missing a 6526. I'm not sure if it will start without this. But if I start by putting in sockets here, here and here, then we can start testing this board to check if there is anything seriously faulty with this board. And here you can see another C64 speciality. It do have another power switch, and it has a slightly different configuration of these jacks. This is the same as one of the other boards, but this is one with white. Otherwise, I do think this is a revision C board, and this one actually is a revision B. And age-wise, this is made sometime in '83, because you do have one chip here, or maybe it's not, maybe it's made very early '84, because this chip here is produced in the first week of '84, and 27th week, 46th week. I can't read of this one. And all the other chips, you have to decode them especially. But if we see underneath here, oh, we can see this this 6526 is partially desoldered. I don't know if you can see it, but all these pins here are actually desoldered somewhat. Some of them are still sticking back in. I wonder what I'm going to do with that. Maybe I just desolder the rest of this chip and put in a socket. If it's not working, then we need to do that anyway. And it's partly desoldered. Yeah, is there anything else noticeable here? You can also see that this is the board with the tinned copper traces. It's not the one with all the good thick lines with all the extra solder beneath the solder mask. Otherwise, it's very similar. But of course, this is another revision. This is revision C, as I said, so there probably are some minor differences. But I do think I'm going to desolder this one first. Yeah, I desoldered most of this with my desoldering gun, but it's still stuck in here, so I'm going to use the hot air to try to melt this out. Okay, most of it can loose. Yeah, it's out. Even though it heats the chip a bit, it's much more efficient. And I do have to clean up some of the spots here. At least around this one it looks rather ugly. This is the Chinesium desoldering braid. It does not contain enough flux for it to be very good, but I'm just cleaning up a bit of a messy desoldering here. And I'm not sure what happened here. I lost some of the footage here. I did continue to clean, but I was changing the roll to another desoldering braid, and I had to have knocked some knob or something because it broke the recording. This desoldering process is not totally clean, but that should be okay here, and that should be okay there, and I do have to inspect the... These ones looks good. This one looks a bit messy. To do a bit of cleanup around because they have spilled some solder and they also made some scratches in the solder mask. So I will try to clean up a bit around here. This looks good. And this one needs some attention. Here they have also spilled some solder. Yeah, now I think all the holes should be open at least. Yeah, I'm going to need two 40-pin sockets, one 16-pin and one 20-pin. And I'm going to just take the magnifying glass and check all of these. And when I say magnifying glass, I'm using these glasses here. And just try to look real hard. This desoldering that I have done here was actually very good. And partly this one, see no traces damaged at all. And there are some solder mask damages, but nothing severe. Same around here. Yeah, but there should be no traces here. There also is some used some flux here, and this looks like, this actually looks like not soldering flux, it looks like plumber's flux. And that's slightly more corrosive than this kind. Yeah, you have some solder mask damage. I see no damage on traces. And the same here, no damage on traces. Looks good. And looks good. Yes, and this is the sockets I found. And these here do have long enough legs to place into this, but if you don't clean up the solder very well on these chips, then you will destroy the sockets, because one little drop of solder at the end here will rip this out when you try to pull the chip out of the socket afterwards. But I don't have machined sockets, that's 40 pin. I only have 24 pin and 28 pin of these wide sockets. That's machined sockets as far as I remember. So we are going to use what we have. And those went in well, and this one also. And also this one. Yeah. They might fall off when I put the board upside down. I don't have any tape to keep them in, or I might have. This is just painter's tape. and I don't know if it's enough to keep them in there, but let's try. I don't need them to stay for very long. I'm going to check after I soldered 2 pins to see if they stay in place. Yeah, like so. Then it's just to start soldering, and nothing too exciting about this. Yeah, that should be everything. So then we are ready to test something. And I also have to clean this thing. I'm not totally sure how I'm going to do that. I really need to get off all the solder. Yeah, that did not go so well. I managed to I got one leg that was bent. And I don't know if I damaged the socket or not. But this leg here, I definitely damaged. I bent it totally over and it actually broke off. So much about being careful with that. And the socket. Yeah, I do think I managed to don't destroy the socket. Yeah, I have to measure if this leg stays in. And yeah, I can try this with my other arm seat. No, I can try this with this. Maybe. I think I will be able to put this in a socket. This is the one that is broken, that we measured before, that we know what the fault is. So this will give the same fault as the other board, but we will have no problem booting and doing most of the stuff that we are planning to do. Like so. And we do have these wick chips. I don't know if they are working or not, but that's part of the fun. Like so. And then we have this chip here, and this was a 629. I will go and check and see if I have a new 629. And I do not. It's not often I encounter that I have holes in my TTL logic, but it do happen from time to time. This is an old one. You can see here they have silver platings on the end of the legs here, so that's why this is going black. It's the silver that is corroding. And I will just put this like so. Yeah, and I also need a 373, of course. I'm not sure on the load on this. I both have an HCT, the CMOS version with TTL levels, and I have an LS373. That is what should go in here originally. This is a new old stock. Yeah, like so. And ready for liftoff. It's hanging down here, like so, and I can turn on this one, and you're actually having a Commodore 64, and it's having some issues with the video memory. That's for sure, not the video memory, but the color memory. And that is this one here. And we can actually run the diagnostics on this. Because it should test the video memory. And now you can see the glory. It also can be, I do remember that there are some 4066 trickery with the video memory. Yeah, but might the fault be with the 6569? PLA test bad. Okay, tested PLA bad. I don't know, and the color RAM, it seems to hang on the color RAM. Yeah, it does not go further than the color memory. I'm not sure how the test routines are for this. Okay, now it went further. Yeah, this is amazing. This was the scrap board, and it's not working, of course, ideally, but it's working. I'm going to connect the rest of the test harness to see what else of the error messages we need before I go on desoldering anything more. And new test. This memory here is a 4-bit memory. It's it's a 4-bit, I do think, static memory, and it do passes its signal. Now you can see it hung again on color RAM, I do think. I do the same as last time. I turn it off, turn it on again, and see if we can make this past to check the others. And this has TM. I wonder if it's Texas, or I don't know this T, what kind of memory it is, but it's not Texas Instrument. It can be an old signal for Toshiba. Yeah, and it also says that U12 is bad, and U12 is this memory chip here. And it also says that U17 and the PLA is bad. So there are something more fault with this board. Oh no, it says that all these here are bad, the memory chips. I will test with the dead test and see what that says about memory. I do have a bit of another scheme of testing memory, and it's good to see what it has to say about the memory before we do anything else. And I also think this uses a bit longer time to testing, so maybe the test is more throughout. Now it says color RAM bad, and it says U9 bad and U21 bad. So U9 and U21. But as someone has been soldering on this board here, there might be something with this, but I do think it hung up now. And let's see what the other diagnostic was. It was dead test STID 1.2, so, and that was set 2, and diagnostic, no, it was set 1, no, set 2, and dead test set 2, yes. Let's see what's happening. This is a different dead test. They say that this memory is bad, and it's testing okay until, yeah, the screen RAM is from 400 to 1000, I think, something. So this memory, they can be bad, but it's the upper addresses that is bad. And here it actually said something different. It's not U21, it's U22 for the memory. I'm actually suspecting multiplexers more than I suspect the memory when they are this inconsistent. Then we have something more to look into, and it do report that the color RAM is bad. But the bad color RAM can also be one of the 4066's. So I have to check that. Yeah, we're back at the bench, and we saw that we had this situation where a lot of scrambled colors and so on. And I was thinking maybe we should use the scope and just look what we got here. I'm not sure how good you will be able to see the scope, but let's just hook it up here and do some measurements. This is the color RAM, and this is the 74257's that does the demultiplexing of memory. And if we look at, yeah, just probe around on the 2114 memory chip and see what we got. There is a square. This is also square with some noise, it's okay. Square. Oh, this can't be good. And this was the pin for, yeah, I will have to check the pins. And this does not look good either. And here it looks like a bus conflict where you have, yeah, signals that is about 2 volt, and you can see some very high voltages. It's 5 volt, and you have the same here, it's very low. I can see the same. This is maybe bad timing just, but it's some conflict in timing on the bus. This is okay. And I do have the test going now, but it's probably frozen. It do freeze in this time, so we might have to start. Yeah, I have to check the pinouts on this. And here I do have my sheet. And if we do look at the lines where we do had the troubles here, I do think it was this one. And this is the first output, second output, third output, and fourth output. So the output of this, the I/O, it's not output because it's both input and output lines, but the I/O on this, and they is going through one of the 4066's. I do have to check which one of them. Yeah, the 4066 in question is the U16. It's this one. And the 4 bits in this one is going... Yeah, let's start and probe around on this one. Here you have a good pulse. And here you have a really bad one. Half of these squares should be the inputs and the other half should be the outputs. This does not look good, and this does not look good. I do have to turn it on and off so I can check with a start cycle to see if the test freezes, if that has any. The reason why they're using a 4066 here is that it's used as a simple 4-bit bus transceiver. It's an analog switch, really, and it do make the system able to share the 4 bits of the color memory with the VIC2 chip and the data bus. So the 4 least significant bits to change colors and stuff is divided between these. But you do have this kind of signals on. You have 4 pins where you have good signals. I do think the first thing I will do is desolder the 4066. It's also a very cheap fix. It might be the memory chip and it might be this one. I don't think it's the 6569 because I've changed this now to a plastic one. And it's getting real hot, of course, they always do. I will put some heat sink on that one. And yeah, let's desolder this one and check it out. I will just disconnect everything so I have the PCB free and get out the desoldering gun. And it's this one. Like so. So I desolder here and put in. It started to clog up maybe. Yeah, this is my main issue with this Hacko 301. It's quite expensive with spare parts and it requires a bit of maintenance. I did clean this out before our last desoldering session, but it's clearly not doing what it should. I wonder if this is too thick. thinner needle. Oh. Yeah, I think that did the trick. I'm going to add some solder here and try again. Just the one where I didn't seem to get a good cleaning. Yeah, let's try that. I do think that looks as far as we are going to get with the desoldering gun, so we do have to take out the hot air, as this is not sufficient. And I do have some holes here. On this side it's totally cleaned out, but I do have some on the other side where I can see some solder left on this side. So instead of taking chances, we are going to go with the hot air on these two. On my small bench here I do have to rearrange everything because I can't have all the tools here at once, and especially the large soldering things. And I think the easiest thing to do is just to let it fall out. Yeah, this seems to take far longer time than usual. What's a stubborn one, this one? Okay, there it goes. Like so. And I do have a new socket here, a 14-pin socket. Goes in just like so. And I of course need my soldering gun. I need to put on some water on the sponge. I just leave this here in case there is more soldering to be done. And I do suspect there is. Like so, just to check if it's a good fit. It is. Yeah, like so. And I do have a chip here. I have not tested it. It do look like a China remake because the legs are soldered and tinned. That might not be a bad idea, but it's not used. And yeah, just let's put it in and check. We can of course just test without the harness. Just put diagnostic cartridge in, it's easier to see. And nothing much has changed. And if we check with the scope, yeah, it's the same, but then it's the memory chip that has to go, and we can probably just put in the old 4066 afterwards if it's okay. But then it's this one. This is the color memory. And let's do the desoldering thingy first. Heat up again. And it did destroy my measuring needle here. But of course I can still use this to clean out this stuff. Like so. You also have to remember one more thing, and that is that the system actually recorded that the PLA was blank. So we can't rule out that it's not the memory either, but that it is the PLA. And that I actually got my first PLA that is not working at all, but that might be a suspicion from before, because this was some of the chips that was in this bag, and here you can see he has bought 2 of these PLAs, and this is the Plankton PLA version. So I'm not familiar with this, but probably it's just to plug it in and see what's happened. So we might have to desolder the PLA anyway. It's going to be some hot air on this too, no doubt about that. Yeah, I'm not going to take it further with the desoldering gun. We do want to be a bit conservative about the pads on these boards. Even though this was a scrap board, I do think it's in a really nice condition. So I'm not a huge fan of those people who make their own C64 and just scrap another board and just make a new one. It's a good exercise, of course. You can, of course, desolder the whole chip by using hot air, but then you have to clean up the holes and the mess afterwards. And here it's one hole that is still clogged. Might have to use some desoldering braid here to clean up things. Use this needle thingy. Yeah, then I think it's cleared up. Yeah, the 2114 memory chip is an 18-pin device, so I need an 18-pin socket, and I do have some chips laying around. Strangely, the audio was missing on this part, but basically I'm just telling that I'm taking a new 18-pin socket and start to solder it in on the board. I don't think this is caused by the PLA because it's a local problem, but of course if there is some timings that is off, that goes from the PLA to other chips, it might be that the timings that goes into the 4066 to change between the VIC access cycle and memory access cycle for the color RAM, that might be disturbed. And this is also a China part. I see it's tinned pins and on static memory. I don't know how wise that is, but it's in there now. This was the old one, 2114 2L, and this is 2114 and it's 2 and it's not L, but I don't know if it matters or not. Just let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, one fault down, so let's see what's happening now. We don't have the harness in, but we will get a good RAM test. I'm not sure if we get a good PLA test without the harness, I don't remember. But on the last try, it did freeze on the color RAM test. Now it passed. And it's not now reported, it's not reporting bad PLA. And it's reported all the IO chips bad, so I'm going to connect up the harness, take away the scope, and take this is the memory chip, this is the 4066. We are going to test with that one afterwards to check if it's good. Might look into the scope to check what the signals are with a good memory chip. Port 2 here, like so, and everything connected, diagnostics. Now we have everything in except the SID chip. And of course we have the known bad CAA chip from last time, so we do know that we should get comparable results to the test with this chip the last time. It says that the control port and 6581, that should be the SID chip, is bad, and its SID chip is not here, so we plug in the SID chip and see if it's because of the paddles and the analog circuitry on the SID chip that makes this not work. And this SID chip here is probably fully working, but that we will get a test of if I have turned up the audio. I think I have. Now it marks the 6526 U1 as bad at once. And they're both in a socket, of course. One was the one we desolder, and one was the one that was bad from the other board, so we did expect to get at least one fault. But I do have another of my CIA chips here, and let's do that. This was from 84, so I do think it's this one, and hopefully we won't break the socket. No, I think we did save the socket. And let's test with this CIA. It was a bit harsh to get stuck in the socket, this one, but yeah, there it should be in. And connect the keyboard again. Like so. And new test. So this we have to mark as a possible bad. Yeah, fully working. So we got the scrap board also fully working. You can see here it's been mishandled and chips was desoldered, and we do have some valuable components in here that was on this board, but I'm going to test now with the 4066 that was in this board, and we have to be careful with the socket, because when you desolder this, there will be a bit solder that can make these stick in the sockets. So in some cases, when you have desoldered chip, it's better to use these machined sockets with the round holes. But new test, and as a leftover from last time, we do have to mark this as bad. Yes, and then our conclusion here is pretty straightforward. The 2114 static memory in this computer did mark both the PLA, U21, it depended on what, if you use the dead test cartridge or the diagnostics or the other dead test. I think every one of the memory chips at one point was marked as bad, and also the PLA was marked bad, and the color RAM did hang the system, but it worked otherwise. Yeah, it didn't make any other claims, and we did manage to run the diagnostic once. And we also established one more thing, that the 74373 chip, it also worked with the HCT device. I did have this LS device, but I thought I also should test the HCT device, and it works quite good, and this gets less hot. And I will find a heat sink and put on some of the chips here if I'm going to use this board. But for now, I'm just going to leave this as a fully tested board, and I might salvage the chips that I put in here, mainly this CIA, as now I have placed both these CIAs and I don't have any more. I do have one original 6526 left, and also the 6581 that was in this computer. I'm going to just leave it here for now, and we just call it a day for this one. Yeah, and that's it for this episode. We do have more C64 stuff coming up, but now we have taken what I have brought into my my small workshop here. I do have 2 more C64's, and we are going to look into them in the next episode. We are starting with that. We take this as come along, just so we do whatever it takes to get these machines working, and we take them one by one and hope to find some interesting twists on this along the way. I did hope to get some use for these PLA, but we are still struggling with this. I have said this before, I have not yet come across a C64 with a bad PLA with one of the common faults. So that's still in our future, so we will keep looking, and if any one of you have a board with a black screen or something and want me to look into that, I do have 2 PLAs here, so just give me a notice. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again in my next episode. Please go and watch some of my other C64 stuff. I do have some links, at least to some playlists, in the description below. There are some really good C64 stuff there and some interesting stories that is not at least commonly told on the internet. So take care, and until next time, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.